What's up, everyone? It's Q from Retro Q Gaming, and were you one of the many people who fired up Halo 5 Guardians for the first time and was a bit disappointed that there was no firefight mode? If you were, you can join me in that camp. But, lucky for you, Microsoft and 343 Industries have you covered. And what do I mean by that? Well, a couple of weeks ago, 343 Industries finally launched what they call Halo 5 Warzone Firefight. So, what is Halo 5 Warzone Firefight? Well, to answer that question, we're going to have to go back and give you a quick little brief introduction on what Firefight actually is. So Firefight originally started in Halo 3 ODST, and it was essentially a multi-wave survival simulator, if you want to call it. If you're familiar with Gears of War at all, it's horde mode, kind of like that. So in Halo 3 ODST, when you booted up Firefight, you had several different sets and several different matches. There was rounds and sets and matches. So basically, you'd have several different rounds in several different sets in several different matches. As confusing as that may sound, it was a survival. And on top of all that is every time you would progress to, say, a new set or sometimes a new round, you would get a new handicap. So it would turn on one of the skulls, or it would turn on several of the skulls. Maybe it would already have one or two on, and it would add another one on top of that. And eventually you'd get to the point where you had several skulls on and you were fighting pretty difficult enemies with some severe handicaps. So it was definitely a load of fun. It was 4-player co-op, or up to 4-player co-op in ODST at least anyway, and it was a crap load of fun. Fast forward a little bit further to Halo Reach. They brought Firefight back to Halo Reach. It was a little bit different based on the nature of the game and the differences of Halo Reach versus Halo ODST. And you found that, I personally think anyway, the extra abilities and the new stuff that they brought into Halo Reach actually made for a better Firefight game. It did seem a bit shorter. An overall game of Halo Reach Firefight did seem to be a bit shorter, and it generally didn't last as long, but it was more hectic and it was more fun in the long run. I did think in ODST it just kind of dragged out towards the end. It was just rinse and repeat, more of the same. But not ODST, that's how it felt in ODST, but in Reach it felt a bit more varied and a lot more interesting and intense most of the time. So you've got that's basically what Firefight is. Now, Firefight was not originally in Halo 5 Guardians when it released. It was released a few weeks ago in a patch, one of the biggest patches of Halo 5 Guardians to date, and they added in, like I said, Warzone Firefight. Now, one thing that had me a little bit, I won't say concerned, but threw me off a little bit is the fact that before it was released, they were always referring to it as Warzone Firefight. And if you're familiar with Halo 5 Guardians at all, you'll know that Warzone is basically one of their two main online multiplayer modes. There's the arena one, which is all set starts and set small arena-based combat, whereas Warzone was different. If you're not familiar with it, the main thing with Warzone or Warzone type matches in Halo 5 Guardians is that they use what's called a requisition system. Now, the requisition system basically means that every time you get a kill, you get an assist, you do anything that's point worthy, your points will essentially level up your requisition level. So you might get 50 points for a grunt kill, 100 points for an elite kill, 50 points for an elite assist, something like that. So you keep leveling all that up, and as you work your way up through the requisition levels, you get access to more and more powerful and advanced weapons, vehicles, power-ups, things like that. So for example, when you start, you only have an assault rifle and a pistol. Now, when you get up to level 2, maybe you can take a different version of your assault rifle. You can get one with a better clip. Maybe you can get one with a suppressor. Maybe you can get one with a longer scope on it. Then you get up to requisition level 3. You can you can switch to a battle rifle at that point, and you can start going through there. There's so many different versions of each different weapon, all with their own strengths and weaknesses, all with their own extra bonuses and all on top of it. They do all require different requisition levels, so that's a whole other factor that comes into play when you think of your play style and your actual play strategy. So because it uses all of the requisition levels as well, and the fact that it actually was called Warzone Firefight, it means that in Halo 5, Firefight actually uses the Warzone requisition system, hence the name. Now, there are a couple of other main differences for Halo 5 version of... God, what it's called. I've said it so many times at this point. There's so many different games with it all in it. But with the Halo 5 version of Firefight, they're not just the requisition system, which is obviously a big difference, but there are a couple of other noticeable differences straight away. When you think back to Halo 3 ODST and Firefight, it was up to 4-player co-op. When you think of Halo Reach, I believe was also up to 4-player co-op. In Halo 5, Warzone Firefight is actually 6-player minimum, but it is a 6 to 8-player game mode. One thing that did unfortunately kind of throw me off a little bit, and that I was unhappy with, is that I've currently found no way to do a private game. So I know you can take in a fire team. For example, the main people I'd be playing with, there'd be 3 of us in our fire team. We can all load up into a party in our fire team and then just go in. We'll get grouped up with up to 5 other people. Would be a minimum of 3 because 6 to 8 people, and we would all get to go from there. Now, because of all that, I've never actually had a Firefight game that has had less than 8 people in it. So one thing I don't know is if it's balanced. If you get a game that's 6 or 7 people, is it balanced in difficulty and damage and all that for 6 to 7 people, or is it always balanced for 8 people? Because one thing I will notice is that Firefight in Halo 5 is hard. It's not hard as in the fact it's difficult. It's hard as in the fact it is equivalent to, it seems to be balanced in a way that is equivalent to maybe a legendary difficulty. For the simple reason is the enemies do a shitload of damage and they have extreme accuracy, even over extreme ranges. So that makes me think that it's all balanced for similar to legendary. But like I said, this could just be balanced to 8. This could be the 8-person balance difference. I've never seen a 6-person. I've never seen a 7. So it could be just that it's down to there. Enemies tend to die in roughly the same amount of hits that they would die in a legendary or maybe even a heroic playthrough, with the exception of some of the specific enemies that have their own health bars and things like that. Those are enemies that have specific buffs and they're specifically designed to be more difficult and more longer lasting because they're generally targets to kill. Another main difference with Warzone in Halo 5 is that it actually only has 5 rounds and you have 5 minutes to complete each round. So the timer will reset at the start of each round and you get the 5 minutes to do that. If you don't manage to complete it, you'll time out and it'll be mission over. Say you'll get timed out at maybe round 4 of 5, you might time out around 2 of 5, you might even time out at round 1 of 5 if you're unlucky. But because it uses the Warzone requisition system, you can actually top up between rounds. You can organize your requisitions between rounds. You can organize them actually in the middle of a round as well. So if you have to retreat, or if you upgrade in the middle, if you upgrade your Warzone requisition level in the middle of a match or in the middle of a round, you can actually just dip in and quickly change out a new weapon that you may have unlocked or something like that as well. Increasing, or well, I was going to start in the middle of a sentence there. As you go up in the increased rounds, so round 1, you have like a 5-second respawn. Every round that goes up higher and higher, at the start of the round, the respawn time increases to the point where if you die in round 5, you've got a 30-second respawn. And that's a 30-second respawn in a 5-minute difficult enough level. So that is a severe handicap to your team if you do manage to, unfortunately, die in one of the higher level ones as well. Because the enemies are stronger, they take longer to kill. It can be a bit of a grind in the last slogfest right at the end of the 5th round. Between each round, there's also an intermission. You've got a 30-second intermission, so you can freely run around, get into position, refill your ammo, refill your grenades, whatever, pick up whatever weapons. You can go on to your requisitions. You can say pick a power up. You can pick different weapons. Anything that you may have unlocked that you haven't got around to. You can pick out a vehicle if that's how you want to choose it. So there's plenty to do in there as well, and not just the fact that it's a new game type, because Halo 5 was hurting originally at first. It only had basically two different game types. There was just Halo. There was just Arena, and there was two essentially different types of Warzone, but they were realistically the same kind of thing. So realistically, there was just Arena, and realistically, there was just, I said realistically a lot these last 2 minutes, and Warzone. So now that there's Firefight in there as well, that's a whole other thing. Personally, with how Halo 5 worked online, I like more Warzone Firefight, than I do standard Warzone or Assault Warzone or even Arena. I thought Arena was very bad, but I do like the Firefight aspect of it a lot more as well. Throughout the different waves, be it wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's set across different maps. Obviously, you load into whatever map at the start and you do all your 5 waves on that map. But the thing that's nice about it is there's a very varied selection of rounds that you can actually get. Some of them are defend. Some of them are, say, kill a certain amount of a certain type of enemy. Kill, boss enemies, things like that, which will obviously be a lot more dangerous, do a lot more damage, have a lot more health, have shields, have extra powers. Things like that. You've got, say, when the Prometheans show up, kill a certain amount of knights, kill a certain amount of crawlers. You'll have buffed elite knights. You'll have Warden Eternals, things like that. So it's nice and varied. And something that's actually very different as well is there's a new type of grunt enemy that's created especially for Warzone Firefight and nothing else. And it's basically a giant mech with a grunt in it. And it looks kind of like a giant grunt mech with 2 huge needle cannons and other special stuff like scatter grenades and homing scatter grenades and all that it's got. So it's nice that they're actually supporting with new content and all in Warzone Firefight. It's not just pick up a bunch of existing assets and dump them in. They're actually putting some new stuff in. So I do want to see if they're going to add a lot more to that later on as well. Because of the requisition system, obviously you can level up using your standard XP that you gain based on your actual gameplay and your performance in the gameplay. Obviously, the more kills you get and the more rounds you proceed through, the more experience you get. It's the same with the more requisition points. The same deal. The more you contribute and the more levels you pass, the more rounds you pass, you'll actually gain more requisition points, which are obviously used post-game to buy the new requisition packs. So you can unlock new stuff that can be used in games later down the line. And one thing I will say is you get a shitload of requisition packs when you do certain things, like when you get certain amount of, say, kill 500 crawlers or whatever, stuff like that. You get bonus requisition packs, and you get a shitload of requisition packs from Warzone Firefight. So I know most of the time when I actually complete a Warzone Firefight level, I will have about 3 gold packs waiting for me, maybe 2 commendation packs, and you get every day you get a special pack for completing one Warzone Firefight mission. You also get one for logging in as well, just turning the game on. But you also get one for finishing the first one of the day. I think there's one for 3, one for 5 as well, or maybe it's one for 5 and one for 10 for your completions per day as well. So because of all that, you get a crap load of requisition packs that you can just fly through. It's great if you're looking to earn a lot of stuff really fast and earn the clearances to actually unlock them for further use in other matches as well. So on top of all of that, there's one thing I haven't mentioned as well, and it's almost, now this is just a personal thing, but it's almost my favorite thing, if not my favorite thing, about the entirety of Warzone Firefight and Halo 5. The entire thing is voice. It's not supported by Cortana. It's done by the smooth, seductive, authoritative tones of Spartan Sarah Palmer, aka Jennifer Hale, who is always music to my ears. That's just me, but I just love it. And it helps you so much just going through, because she's in character as Sarah Palmer, Spartan Sarah Palmer, and it's just fantastic. I just love the sound of her voice. It's fantastic. So that's basically it. And the only thing I will say is Firefight any good? for the most part, Firefight is decent. It's not perfect. It could be a lot worse. It needs some tweaks and additions, like possibly an offline, I won't say an offline, but possibly a private game that could be balanced for less players. That's an option. If anyone knows that a way to actually do that, and that I'm just overlooking it, let me know in the comment section below. But there's a couple of things like that as well. The difficulty is one of the things that needs balancing. I don't know about if it needs balancing for 8 people. I've played it a decent amount of time, but I go back and forth. I can understand it in some ways being balanced so harshly for what it is, and I realize that it's not perfectly unbalanced, so I can go back and forth on that as well. I would like to see the option to have an old style, an original, say, ODST or Reach style version of Firefight as well, even if it was restricted to maybe a different playlist or just custom games, where say you could go in, have 50 increasingly difficult waves, maybe they turn a skull or a handicap on every so often, or you can change the option for that if you're not into it. But it would be nice to see something like that, so some more variety for it too. I don't want to say I hate it, but the way I look at it is the requisition system. It does add something a little bit different into the mix, because obviously Halo 5 multiplayer in general is very requisition based. So the fact that you can do that to say, oh, you know that you're coming up against some tanks and some vehicles, you can requisition some anti-tank weapons or some heavy vehicles yourself, something like that. But I'd love to see the option, pretty much goes with the previous one, to even have the current style system, but not with requisitions. Maybe you can pick something, stuff just generally unlocks as you're going through, and it's like round 5 everything's unlocked, or round 5 one of these vehicles is unlocked, something like that. It doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be put out as the standard or a different it doesn't have to be a different playlist, even if it was to just give us the option, even in a custom game or something like that. But so far I'm pretty happy enough with it anyway. Like I said, it could be better, it could be worse, but I want to see how they support it over time. It's only been out a few weeks at this point, and I want to see what they're doing with it. The fact that they're seem to have a fairly wide variety of stuff that it is incorporated with and incorporated into it, as well as the fact that they've made at least one new specific asset just for the actual Warzone Firefight mode itself, is also a nice thing too. Now, on top of all that, I hope they add a bunch more stuff. I hope they add a bunch of new features, levels, maps. Well, levels and maps are basically the same thing. And maybe some other style stuff that we don't know of, or that I just can't think of off the top of my head. It would be nice to add all that stuff, as long as it's all continued to be voiced by Jennifer Hale, Spartan, Sarah Palmer. I don't care. I will listen to that all day, is all I can say. So let me know anyway in the comment section below what you think of Warzone Firefight, if you've played it. If you haven't played it, if you've played, say, the ODST or Reach Firefight, what you think looks different, if it works for you, if it doesn't work for you, anything like that. Also, some Jennifer Hale praise is always great to see. Let me know any of that in the comment section below anyway. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You can follow me on Twitter, details in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the rest of the videos in my channel.